What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports here on the Texas channel at the voice of college football. The 2022 regular season now over, and it's time to look ahead to bowl season. Everyone seems to be in agreement to where Texas is going to go bowling this year. This team finishes 8-4, going to finish in the top 25. Pretty good season for the Longhorns. I know a lot of you Texas fans had hoped for more, had hoped to get to a Big 12 championship. Especially if you knew where Oklahoma State, Baylor, and Oklahoma were going to wind up, you probably would have thought, yeah, Texas has a great chance. And they weren't that far away, just 3 conference losses. It was still a pretty good season. If you didn't play Alabama in the non-conference, probably would have been a 9-3 season in year 2 under Steve Sarkisian. Looking ahead to year 3, will we see that big jump? We see it with a lot of coaches. They get a little better in year 2. And then year 3, they kind of make that big jump. So we'll see if Texas is able to do that. I think it helps them to have this bowl game, to be able to have these bowl practices, get a lot of young players experience, practice time, and a lot of them probably will play in the bowl game as well. So it's going to be, I think, good for Texas, and I think they're going to get a pretty good matchup. So all the projections seem to point toward the Alamo Bowl for Texas and Utah being the opponent. So CBS Sports, 24/7 Sports, and Athlon all projecting Texas to play Utah in the Alamo Bowl. The last 2 bowl games that Texas went to are actually in the Alamo Bowl. They went 4 times. They've gone 4 times since 2010, and so this is definitely a bowl game that you're going to be familiar with. December 29th at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So go ahead and mark your calendars. I mean, it seems like Texas is pretty much locked in here. You look at the different scenarios. Now, Utah, they're not locked in against Utah, but Texas, I think, is going to be here because if you look at the Big 12 bowl slot, so if TCU wins, they're going to go to the playoff. Kansas State is going to go to the Sugar Bowl. If TCU loses, Kansas State is still going to go to the Sugar Bowl. TCU, maybe they don't make it to the playoff, but they're going to take an at-large spot probably in the Cotton Bowl. So either way, you know that Kansas State and TCU are going to be in New Year's Six bowls. And that leaves, the next highest bowl for the Big 12, and that's going to be going to Texas because they're the only other team ranked more than likely when in these final rankings. So Texas will be in the Alamo Bowl. Now, on the other side of this thing, if USC beats Utah, USC going to go to the college football playoff. Washington will likely represent the Pac-12 in the Rose Bowl, and Utah will more than likely be that next highest ranked team. It's possible, especially if the game is not close, if Utah gets blown out by USC, you could maybe see Oregon here in the Alamo Bowl. You could see Texas versus Oregon. But how about if Utah beats USC, then more than likely USC will go to the Cotton Bowl as an at-large, depending on how things shake out. And Utah would then go, of course, to the Rose Bowl. But that's not a guarantee if the scenario I brought up a second ago kind of plays out and TCU takes that at-large spot in the Cotton Bowl. USC might not even make it to a New Year's Six Bowl because there's only one at-large spot this year in the New Year's Six. Everything else has a conference affiliation. So that means it's possible you could see Texas versus USC in the Alamo Bowl if they lose. Not very likely. And then if Utah goes to the Rose Bowl if they win and you do see USC in the Cotton Bowl, then you're probably going to see Washington here in this bowl game. So I do believe that Utah is the most likely. That's what the projections are. But you could possibly see Washington. You could possibly see Oregon. Probably not. Again, Utah will have to fall behind Oregon. But then again, Oregon did beat them head-to-head. So there are several different scenarios. Texas seems locked into the Alamo Bowl where they will face Utah, Oregon, Washington, or USC, one of those teams out of the Pac-12, but more than likely it will be Utah if they lose to USC in the Pac-12 championship. So that's where Texas is projected to go bowling again December 29th at 9 o'clock Eastern time in the Alamo Bowl.